Welcome to Catholic Mom Mindset, a daily show where you learn to walk closely with the Holy Spirit so you can live the life God is calling you to. I'm your host, Sterling Jaquith. Let us begin. Welcome back. Today I want to talk about the difference between praying at God and praying with God. Now, most of us know what it's like to have a frustrating day or a frustrating year or a frustrating season of life. And we throw up exasperated prayers to the Lord, like, Lord, help me. And we just kind of beg him for relief. And we speak to him in sound bites, usually desperate ones. And for a lot of us, we weren't formally trained how to pray with God, how to have a conversation with him, how to have a relationship with him. It's so easy to think of this kind of nebulous guy in the sky and not really know how to treat him like a friend. And so I want you to consider what your prayer life looks like. I think it's totally fine to have popcorn prayers that we send up to the Lord. Lord, give me patience. Help me with this child right now. But I want you to be spending time every day listening to the Lord, talking with him, asking him questions. I want you to begin to hear his voice. And you don't need to take a lot of time for this. But God's voice is soothing. It never rushes us. It convicts us in a good way, convicts us to grow in virtue and holiness. It brings us peace. It makes us feel calm and loved. It's warm. And so I want you to practice listening for this voice. And by the way, we usually hear it in the sound of our own voice. I just had an email about that. Someone said, I think I hear things that God tells me, but it's in my voice. So is that my voice or his voice? But the voice in our head is the voice that we hear. Like that's the tone, the sound. But the way that you know that it's God speaking to you in your mind is by the way that it makes you feel. And you can just Google God's voice versus Satan's voice. I think the list always says Satan's voice. To me, it's God's voice or it's some other voice. I don't really worry who else's voice it is because it might be mine. It might be the culture. It might be something I saw in a movie. I don't spend any time thinking about the devil. That guy doesn't deserve it. So, but to me, it's either the voice calms me down and feels like peace and love, or it isn't. And that's how I can tell the difference between my voice and God's voice. And I will tell you that the number one thing that helped me hear God's voice was to begin to speak to myself like a kind and loving parent. In my mind, to myself. Good morning, love. You look beautiful today. We're going to have a wonderful day, aren't we? I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a good job. I see how much you care. I see how much you love those kids. I see how hard you're trying in your marriage. I think it's incredible that you're also building this business. I'm proud of you for taking the risk to move somewhere that you had never been in the hopes of a different kind of community. And you're really doing it, aren't you? Right? So the more we speak to ourselves in a kind and loving voice, the more we will be attuned to God's voice. And I'm just going to keep talking about this because to me, this is just like the one skill that all the humans need. If you only had this one skill, you could figure everything else out. If you could figure out how to hear the voice of God, everything gets easier after that. Because we're spending so much time reading and hustling and learning and chatting with our friends just to try to figure out what we should do. But there's one person who knows what we should do. And he wants to tell you. And he wants to tell you every day and 100 times a day. The Holy Spirit is ours by right of baptism. and confirmation. So I want you to start having a prayer life with God, not at God. Just a few minutes a day. Find pockets of time where you close your eyes and you take a deep breath and you ask him things and you listen for the answer. And if you don't hear anything, I want you to start practicing speaking kindly to yourself. How do you imagine God's voice would sound? And then try to speak to yourself in that way so you can become practiced at hearing it. All right, my lovelies, do this. Everything that's hard in your life right now will become easier if you can learn this. Thank you so much for listening and have a blessed day. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Catholic Mom Mindset. To learn more about growing closer to the Holy Spirit, check out our free resources at madeforgreatness.co. Thank you so much for listening and have a blessed day.